over there. Let's-
Great. All right, here we go. All right, we are live. I'm calling to order the special meeting of the St. Augustine Beach Commission, Monday, February 10th. And I'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beverly, will you do us the honor of the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor England,
Here?
Vice Mayor Costa,
Here?
Commissioner George. Here. Commissioner Rumwell,
Here.
Commissioner Samora.
Here.
All right, the next thing we need to do is vote to determine that the meeting is an emergency, and so I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that
Okay.
this meeting complies with the requirements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. So now we need to discuss what our next steps will be in selecting a city attorney. We have interviewed 5 firms. We voted, selected a law firm in negotiations. That contract failed, and so we have 4 law firms possibly that we could go back and consider. Craig Sherrar from Palatka, John Wallace, he was with the law firm of Lewis Longman Walker. He is now on his own, and if you will recall, the law firm, I raised your attention to the fact the law firm was a lobbyist group, but now that Mr. John Wallace is on his own, you may want to hear from him again. And then we have Mr. Ralph Brooks, and then thanks to our current city attorney, Denise May, has also thrown her hat in the ring to be considered. She's with the law firm of Marks Gray. So 2 of the firms are in Jacksonville, 1 in Palatka, and Mr. Brooks is in Cape Coral, Florida.
Mayor, I did get an email from the Douglas Law Firm here in St. Augustine. They're interested.
Oh, okay, Douglas Law Firm. I did not know they had responded. Okay, so that means we're back to 5 firms. Okay, again, so, commissioners, who would like to indicate a thought on how you would like to proceed? We could re-interview some or all and vote, but I would suggest a special meeting before the end of February to make a decision on law firm. And it's an important decision, so we got to be careful.
Mayor, I had a quick thought, if you don't mind. I think whatever we decide to do, I think we should get Mr. Wilson to start negotiating with all 5 law firms, so we're not stuck in this pickle again. If somebody should come back to us, at least let them see the contract, let them look at it, and then if they have any edits, to get that before we have our special meeting, so that way we're not back doing another emergency meeting prior to our special meeting, if that makes sense. I don't want to have another law firm sign up, we start negotiating with them, something comes back that's different than what we've all agreed to a month ago, and then we're back in the same boat. So my thought is just maybe have Mr. Wilson send the email to them with the contract and proceed that way.
With our standard proposed contract?
Yes,
Yeah.
well, I prepared a contract that was based on the contract that I think Doug Burnett had with you and I had with you, based on essentially the same contract, which with obviously the financial conditions were changed somewhat in it. But it's basically the extra work for $175 an hour is the same as it was before, and it would just be a matter of filling in the blanks as far as who would be designated as the city attorney and who would be the assistants based on how big the law firm is and whatever else you're going to do with it. It's no problem sending that back out again. I've got it. I just have to blank out the names of the lawyers and law firms again.
Okay,
I will tell you, I was somewhat disappointed in the other law firm when they added the provision that wasn't in the original RFP. I was sort of surprised to see that, but I said I'll send it to the commission anyway and see how they handle it. And they handled it badly, in my mind. But that's the position we got left in. I won't abandon you. I'll be here as long as you need me to be here until you can make a decision about what you want to do. Even though I've already got my plaque and I could just leave. I'm just kidding.
But did you ever give us written notice?
I have not given you any notice.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold it for a second. Max, here, let me give this to Max now.
I resign.
Now, in any event, it's whatever you want to do, and
Okay.
and I'll be here for you and help you do that. If that's the way you'd like me to handle it, I'll get the contract out to the firms that are interested, and so you set a time to bring them back in, to talk to them, and if there's going to be a hiccup in the contract, we'll know the hiccup before the contract gets executed, and those people will be out of the running. That'll be the end of it. So we'll come down to one law firm or 12 law firms or whatever we have. In the end, whatever you guys, whoever you decide to pick, you'll pick knowing that they've already agreed to the terms of the contract. It's just a matter of signing it and taking your choice. I agree with Mr. Rumrell. It's a good way to do it. And if it takes you the next year or so to do it, I've made the people in my law firm aware that they're going to have to come to meetings. And Jane West works with us now too, so she would be interested in helping out too. So we've got, Jeremiah didn't feel he was ready to take the wheel yet, but Jane feels like she would be, so.
any other thoughts from commissioners?
Did Marks Gray apply the first time?
They did apply the
Yes.
first time, and they didn't resubmit under the changed conditions, and I asked Denise why, and she was concerned about the driving time, but she's resolved that with the firm, so she lives in Jacksonville Beach. So she had a change of heart, wants to come back and try it again, but she did apply initially. So she was part of the initial group, and she would have probably certainly been one of the finalists, because she worked in St. Augustine for a number of years and has connections to the community and works with the firm that does our insurance defense work. So they know what's going on. And we've used them for other things in the past, so.
I think I recognize the name of Susan,
Erdely.
Early,
okay,
she was Jacksonville Beach attorney for many years.
all right.
Somebody in that firm is.
Anyone else want to suggest, have a thought? So are you all, I need to know you're okay with sending out a contract to those,
Yes. Yeah, no, I was going to actually suggest the same thing.
Okay.
There's no harm in just circulating the draft contracts. They can see it in black and white with the name of the firm, a blank. And that way, they can stand before us. Yeah, I struggle with the question of whether those we've already interviewed, if we give them opportunity to be here and make an additional comment if there is anything that they want to add. But I wouldn't make it a requirement that they come back to interview again. And I think maybe that can be communicated. Valuable, and I feel like I have still a firm handle on those other
okay?
applications. But certainly, I would suggest that we definitely let them know that they're welcome to make a few more comments, but that we're trying to be efficient,
Okay.
so to say.
Well, if it's okay, why don't we take public comment, and then we'll come back and tighten this up and determine a date for the interviews and to meet the law firms again. Okay? Want to start our public comment?
Mr. Ed Slavin.
Last meeting, we determined that we would go with the second. 5 of y'all voted for the firm that withdrew and welched and dishonored what they had agreed to. Mr. Brooks has sent back a signed contract to Mr. Royal. Do I understand correctly? So you could accept that right now. And Mr. Brooks was the highest rated, And I don't think it's fair to any other applicant for y'all to be considering people who weren't wanting the position. For instance, Marks Gray is the city's insurance defense firm. And they do a fine job of insurance defense. I'll tell you more about it after class if you want to hear it, but about the Rainbow Flags case are kind of funny. But it's a conflict of interest to hire the city's insurance defense firm to be the city's attorney. Those are two strictly different roles. So that ought to be off the table. You shouldn't even consider Marks Gray. By the same token, Ralph Brooks came in second. You rated him 3. 3 of y'all gave him the highest rating. You should hire him. I don't see why you would want to rebid this. It looks dishonest, and St. Johns County has a long history of flummery, dupery, and nincompoopery in public procurement, including hiring of attorneys. If you look at the history of the city of St. Augustine Beach, and they're having had a developer lawyer, Doug Burnett, for years as the city attorney for the city of St. Augustine Beach, doing a disservice to the taxpayers. Same with Jeffrey Dobson, the guy who is not only the attorney for the city of St. Augustine Beach, but for every other governmental entity in St. Johns County, and developers, and caused untold waste of government funds. Ralph Brooks is about government service. Ralph Brooks is somebody, he works for the public interest. He's not going to have a developer conflict of interest like anybody else that you could name, including Marks Gray. So I would suggest that you do what you said you were going to do the last time, which is if this Daytona law firm continued to breach its contract, it continued to breach what they promised you, that you would go with the second highest rated person, and that's Ralph Brooks, who I consider to be the Thurgood Marshall of environmental and land use planning law in the state of Florida. And I mentioned a lot of things about him the last time, but you consider what he just did on protecting the outpost on behalf of the people of St. Johns County. The outpost is preserved and protected forever, and Gate Petroleum bailed. They didn't even go to the commission to appeal. He's a fine attorney, and he'll do a good job for y'all protecting the environment and land use planning here. Thank you. Anyone else? Thanks.
All right, I bring it back to the commission to discuss whether,
Let me address the allegation of conflict of interest. A lot of cities do their own defense work. They have their own lawyers that do that. There's no conflict of interest to have a lawyer who does your personal injury and other work and advise the city otherwise. Lots of cities have their own department that does that, and they pay their lawyers to do it. And so it's not unusual. And Marks Gray and other law firms do both. They represent insurance companies, they represent cities. And it's not a conflict of interest because in each case representing the interests of the city against an outside party or within the city's own interests. So there's no conflict. That's not, when somebody brings up insurance, a conflict of interest, that's defined by bar rules, and there's nothing in the bar rules that would prevent this. Opinion of conflict of interest versus a true conflict of interest are two totally different things.
Is there any benefit to is there any benefit to knowing that if we have our own separate counsel, who is a separate set of eyes, that if there's an issue, hiring that other attorney, our counsel and that other attorney would both look at it, and therefore we'd have essentially two sets of eyes?
I've been working with insurance companies on behalf of cities for well over 20 years, and it's always been a teamwork type of situation. And when somebody is in here doing the work, the day-to-day work of the city, and somebody else comes in to do an insurance defense type claim, they're two totally separate things. And whoever, if you chose a city attorney who worked with the same firm, they would have the day-to-day knowledge that I would have, because they'd be with the city on a day-to-day basis. So it would probably be the same thing, and they'd be working within the same office. But I've never had a conflict with an insurance defense law firm ever on any type of case. It's been a successful relationship, and it always is. You're all working for the same client, so you don't have a conflict.
Ed, stop it.
Mr.
Hold
Slavin,
up for a second.
please.
You're not part of the meeting. You've had your say. Just stop it.
Don't yell at me.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. You know what, now I've forgotten my question, interruption from the floor. It was,
Any other commissioners, we've talked about, Slavin as, I do not recall that we agreed, all of us agreed to hire Mr. Brooks as the second. I don't recall that. If anybody wants, and the commission wants to remind me, I truly do not recall that.
I don't recall that either.
Okay, and if we want to proceed with sending out a sample contract to these 5 firms, see what comes back, set a date for interviews, a special meeting before the end of the month, and vote again like we did last time. Thoughts, please?
I've remembered my question there.
Okay.
Briefly. Is there any problem, Mr. Wilson, with us allowing in new applicants, given that we did the RFP process, somebody who withdrew their application and then resubmitted it?
No, you could go back to square one if you wanted to. I mean, there's no real rules or statutes that apply here. You issued the RFP, people responded, you made your choice, the choice blew up, and there's no requirement you take the second or the third or the fourth or anybody else. If you wanted to open it up to new applicants, you could certainly do so. So there's no problem with doing that. It's what the commission feels is the appropriate way to handle the problem. And only one firm got the vote of all the commissioners, and they failed. So you've got to start over again somewhere, whether you start from scratch or just go back to where you were to begin with and choose from the ones that originally applied is up to you.
So, this might be a question for the mayor. Mayor, have we received any firm correspondence from Mr. Wallace in his new capacity, whether he would agree to?
Well, I haven't received anything. Received anything, Beverly?
No.
As I recall, that was one of the issues with their firm as well originally. Now, he's in a new firm, so, you know, I would not waste his time or our time and make sure that if we do invite applicants, that be well communicated.
Okay.
Extend my questions.
If that's the path you want me to take, I'll just create a form contract with the names blanked out and submit that to everybody tomorrow.
I think that that would be a good direction to go in, because it would certainly sift out anybody who's not agreeable to the financial terms.
Somebody
And-
comes back and says, only work for $2.25 an hour, they won't be involved, they'll be gone. Bring it down to the firms that are actually willing to do it for the money that the city wants to do, which I thought we had, but that's the way things go sometimes.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of good candidates the first time. I think it was quite evident who our standout top 3 were, but I think it's worth a new vote rather than to presume that there was a hierarchy caused by, you know, the fact that we had different applicants at the time. And no harm to the city, it's only a benefit to the city if we allow the new candidates to be considered. And
Important enough decision that we take.
Mr.
Thing that I would want to emphasize, but Jim sends it out, but we need to have a deadline of when they're to submit it back, because then we have to copy it for you, distribute it to you, so you will know their responses in advance of your meeting.
Today's the 10th.
But you haven't, yeah,
So-
tomorrow's the 11th, but you haven't set a date for your meeting yet.
Let's look at the calendar for the meeting.
A week from today is a holiday.
So the 25th? Oh, okay, 24th.
Orlando from the 23rd.
What I would do is get the contract out tomorrow and give them 10 days to get it back. So they have it back by the 21st. That gives you, if you have your meeting on the 27th or 28th, it gives you a week to take a look at it and to get them in there. I'll just tell them that if you pick a meeting date now, I'll advise them what the meeting date's going to be.
All right, 27th or 28th, which day is better?
Might I make a suggestion? I can't do the 27th. The 28th is a Friday right before our regular meeting, which is that following Monday. So how about we convene an hour early for our regular meeting?
I haven't planned anything else yet, so. Will I get another plaque?
Yeah,
For each meeting you come to, you'll get a plaque.
time you come
February
back.
to March of 2020.
So that would mean we would have a special meeting on March 2nd? Start a special meeting and try to conclude selecting a city attorney, interviewing and selecting a city attorney, and then going into the regular meeting.
I don't know if an hour would be enough. You might want to,
I'm thinking 5:30 or 5.
Start at 5.
5, start at 5. And if we go into the next meeting, if it goes a little late, can we do that?
sure, certainly you can.
Okay,
I don't know what's on the agenda for next month, but you certainly could.
okay. So, Mr. Wilson, do I need a motion to
Yes.
okay. I need a motion for a special meeting on Monday, March 2nd at 5 o'clock for interview and selection of city attorney.
I'll make a
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Okay, so we're done with that. Okay, workshop time.
6 o'clock,
Okay?
to adjourn.
You have to adjourn
Okay.
your meeting.
All right, adjourn the special meeting.
I need a motion.
I'll make
Oh.
a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes.
Okay, good. Jim, you can go home.
Just want to go home. You guys are on your own.
wish I knew why it was dropping.
Yeah.
And then it just like, it almost like it hit the mute. It was dropping out upstairs. It's working now.
Should we do another one? We get the drums, tom-toms.
It just has this one on. Just try the cable.
Oh, goodness, just leave it alone. So don't pick at the scab. Pick at the scab. It's like spaghetti. Spaghetti. Whoops.
That's all right, I just keep catching it so it doesn't fall and break.
Flying microphones.
Oh, that's all
There
right.
you go. Yeah, we don't need amplification.
I'm
We both have good
loud.
voices.
Yes, yes. I do hear that picking
can
up
be.
though, very well.
Oh my gosh, my assistant manager is like, I'm so overwhelmed with school and work. And it's like, really? You have 3 classes and you work you work Saturdays and Sundays.
Sounds like such a pleasant life.
When I was 23, I had an infant daughter, 3 jobs, and I was going to school full-time for my master's degree. So I don't want to hear it.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
One full-time job, it was gravy though, because I had my full-time job was CVS Pharmacy. I was the assistant manager at the downtown shop. So it was downtown Buffalo. It was only open from 8 till 4. So my hours were 9 till 4, and then the other manager would come in like a little bit later and then stay till 5 to close, right? So it was like gravy. And then my classes, I was taking night classes, so that worked out perfect. And then I had 2 part-time jobs on the weekend.
Okay.
Red Lobster and Denny's waitressing, because it's like fastest, easiest money.
Oh, I waitressed in
Right?
college too.
Yeah.
Yep. I think everybody should. Ed couldn't take the heat.
Oh, for
He
sure.
was a busboy for
Yeah,
about
Cash
an
picked
hour,
up the
I
wait
think, and
tables.
then he quit.
He just doesn't like people. It's like, dude, get over yourself.
Right, right.
You have a hard time in life if you don't like people.
You gotta look at it like you're performing.
Right, yeah.
When you walk out like you're on stage, you just try to make everybody happy.
Right. Or just like an opportunity to learn so much, because everybody's
Yeah.
different. It comes from like,
Yeah.
everybody has a story to tell.
My first
Great job.
waitressing job was in a hotel in
Oh, fun.
Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, there you go.
And it was really cool. I talked to people from all over the world. Good job.
What is that, cheese? It looks like a bag of
Yeah,
cheese.
those are zip ties.
Oh, zip ties.
Yeah.
Look like a bag of
String cheese.
shredded cheese.
I admit I had to do a double look too, just to, what is he carrying?
Yeah, too bad we didn't have a clock. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The city clerk will call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. First I'll call the commission and then the comprehensive planning and zoning board roll call. Mayor England?
Here.
Vice Mayor Costa? Here. Commissioner George? Here. Commissioner Rumwell?
Here.
Commissioner Samora?
Here.
Chairperson Kincaid?
Here?
Vice Chairperson, Odom, I'm sorry.
Present.
Mayor Longstreet? Okay, Mayor Mithers?
I'm here, Longstreet.
I
I lost mayor,
No, I said member.
Sounded like you said mayor.
I was shocked at that.
Member Prentice
I'm here if you call my name.
Member Key.
Nithers.
Here.
and member,
Einhauser.
Einhauser. Thank you.
Here.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm hoping this is the first of many annual workshops, and even if we do it more than once a year between P&Z and the commission, wanting to have this for some time. What we have about 10 issues to walk through. I want it to be very informal, and, speak up if you have a thought. I'll probably move it along fairly quickly, then have public comment. Goal maybe to get out of here at 8:30, and public comment, and then bring it back in, give you all an opportunity to say, maybe here's the one or two things I really like. So that's how we're going to proceed. So let me open up some of the topics. And the topics came from your chair, Mr. Kincaid, and some of the commissioners. So, topic number one, the expectation. What are the commission's expectations of the planning board, specifically related to what may the board do to help the commission do its work? Okay, and so I think this is posed from the P&Z to the commission, so I will open it up for the commissioners to respond, if anybody have some thoughts. If not, I'll jump in, and what I think the commission needs from the Planning and Zoning Board is just to hold your meetings according to the requirements of the ordinances, and maybe be, formal, findings of fact, reasons for your decisions, and and then we're going to need the minutes before the commission would sit on a topic that you have given a decision on. But the P&Z is the heart of local government. I've been on P&Z. Some other members of the commission have been on P&Z, our former mayor. And so it's with a lot of respect for the P&Z. I know what it's like, what you do. And most of our residents would have more engagement with you than they would with the commission sometimes. So the P&Z is essential, and what you do is an essential service to the city. Other commissioners, please.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
You served on
Okay, so expectations. It might be a little bit of a different angle of expectations, but certainly that you all feel valued and respected. Okay, that is, as a commissioner, that's one of my goals. Whatever we can do to help you do your jobs, I want to help you. And there have been occasions where, maybe an issue erupts, and I didn't know about that issue, right, until it became really a kind of a volcanic situation. And so I would like to just take the opportunity to thank all of you for your service, and please know that, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all of us when I say we want to hear what's going on. We want to make sure that staff is providing you with the tools and the resources you need to do your job. So please reach out to me or any commissioner if there's a concern regarding, conveying information or anything like that. Also, from a more, practical structural standpoint, I would like to know that there is a liaison with the city commission. That was always really practice when I was on the planning board. And it could be the chair, it doesn't have to be the chair, but especially if there's going to be a matter that comes before the commission that, is involved what your roles are, then it would be very helpful to have an official spokesperson there to ask questions to. Excuse me. So also, along the same lines of, the city being, and the commissioners being a resource for you, I would like to be able to expect that any member is receiving the educational opportunities that are out there. And when I was on the PZ, I made it an effort of ensuring that not only I got the training in the open government laws and the sunshine laws, but also I took advantage of some of the conferences that were held around the state to educate board members. So I would encourage you to please do that and to know that you have that option. We won't necessarily budget for those resources if it's not being utilized. And I don't know if that opportunity is being communicated through to the board members. So please know that there are educational opportunities out there. And I know you wouldn't be serving if you didn't want to learn more and do your job as well. And so there are great resources out there. If you feel like you want to learn more about, variances or planning or whatever, code interpretation, all that stuff, there are classes out there that the city could budget for that education if you're looking for the opportunity.
I don't think recently that's been brought up to
Yeah.
the Planning and Zoning Board. But I see that the meeting pertaining to the Sunshine Law would be probably well revisited by members, myself included.
Yeah, and I think there's a requirement now also that every year you receive is it a 2-hour course? And that's available online. What's that?
That's for the commissioners.
For the commission.
It is
But
only
we
for.
should have reminders for, I agree with you on the training, and that's one thing when we interviewed for the new city attorney, is that would they be willing to come in and hold classes for all of us? So that's one thing I think
I
we.
think I've only done it twice in 8 years.
Yeah, we do need more, all of us.
Yeah, and we have new members on the.
We have
Never
new
had.
members, and I've done it once or twice.
Steve,
I've
I
been
think we both done it
over 8 years and board member, so.
Just
But I
like
think it's a great idea.
the
to do
city
it.
has annual diversity training, we'll set up some annual training. I will try to do that.
I do have 2 other things,
Yes,
Mayor.
ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, and another thing that's kind of come up over the years is I would suggest that an expectation certainly would be that your city email be checked, or that if you're not going to use the city email, that you let the city manager know, and an alternative email arrangement could be considered. I know when I was mayor, we discussed some options, but it does cost the city money to maintain everybody's individual email accounts. So if you're not going to check it, then please tell staff so that the city can save that expense, and your emails could be routed into like a general email box that then you could come into City Hall and check periodically.
I think we've already taken
Okay.
care of that, we were.
Oh, good.
Advised.
Wonderful.
To check it, and if we didn't know, if we didn't know our password.
We weren't given that
we
option to
could-
do that. We were just given the option to
Participate.
come get your new email. If you have not checked it, and because you haven't, if you forgot your password, come in and get your new password. So I think we all did that.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, I think there were some newer issues that maybe evolved, and I don't know that, everybody that was having those issues is still on the board necessarily, but I think there was some new procedures and protocols.
This just happened within the month, I think, wasn't it?
I just got my
I
new
think-
password.
Everybody needs to speak up
Sorry.
because they cannot hear you on TV, so these mics are kind of.
Is it on?
Doesn't sound-
It's not on, so that's not our problem. It's not our fault. If it's not on, we can't.
This
They're
one's not.
on, you just, it doesn't, you
It
don't
doesn't make
hear.
that noise, really? Okay.
Really?
They are done.
Mics is actually harming the sound system.
Oh,
The
so
speakers
sorry.
are not on.
The speakers are
Because
not
you
on.
guys are positioned underneath the speakers. We will feedback if we turn them on.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
We'll do better.
Okay.
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 If there is an issue with accessing your city email, or if it seems difficult, we all should use our city email so that it can be tracked for the sunshine requirements. So if you have an issue or there's a problem, bring it to the city manager or one of the commissioners, and we'll try and work it out. But we all should be using our city emails for obvious purposes. Okay. Anybody else here?
I will. I want to personally say that and I can think that I'm also speaking for the commission, value and respect you, your work, and your opinions. Even as recently as the last meeting, I was really happy that you came to our meeting, Chair Kincaid, so that you could specifically tell us what the intentions of the little blurb that we got meant, so that we could formulate a good decision. A lot of the decisions that we make that involve the Planning and Zoning Board, the information that you provide to us is priceless. We count on that, and we value it. We thank you for your time, because it is an enormous amount of time. I also would like to echo Commissioner George's comment about having a liaison to the commission. We had started that a little bit, I believe, a little more than a year ago, where y'all were taking turns. One of you would come to the meeting to make sure if we had any questions about the notes or the issue that was before us, that we could have our questions answered right away. And that was extraordinarily valuable. But I would like to thank you for your work and the time that you put in. Absolutely.
What else here on the
I
commission?
think you'll find me reiterating some of what Vice Mayor Kuska just said. Thank you. Your time is appreciated and valued. Really, really do appreciate that, so thank you. The liaison, that's priceless to have, especially when it's not a cut and dry type of a situation. It really helps to have that color, to have someone there. So I believe that's a great recommendation. And something that Mayor England said, and I want to maybe add to it, when you're making motions, it would be helpful to, I don't know if you can work it in somehow, but the reasons for deciding for or against a variance is sometimes helpful. Maybe we don't need that if you're going to have a liaison there to, to describe some of the background as to why you either approved or denied something. Otherwise, just when we get a motion to approve, but we don't know the background of it, that hinders. It would help if that were noted in the motion. That's all I had.
And again, I thank you, every one of y'all, for being kind of our front line of defense. So when an issue comes or a variance for building, you all are the first to see it. And I appreciate the recommendations. Echoing all the commissioners, anything we can do to help you as well on our end. But I think the liaison will be great. And I think having another one of these meetings more than once a year, I think would be helpful too for all of us. So we can all talk, be on the same page, and work together as a team. Because as we do this in numbers, we'll get greater results. So I really do appreciate it and the effort and time, even tonight, for y'all to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, another thing that just kind of came to mind while we were discussing, I would suggest, feel free to be proactive if you're aware of maybe a new ordinance or a change to an existing ordinance that might be helpful from a policy perspective from the community. Our board is the one that sets the formal policy, but you can still submit a recommendation, or you could even reach out, to the staff or one of the commissioners and say, hey, I think this would be a good idea in our community to deal with some of the issues we've seen, if we're getting a lot of variances for a particular issue, or if you see something that would really help the aesthetic on the corridor or something. Feel free to be proactive. Government is always reactive, and that is, 2020 is great in hindsight, but it would be so nice to avert problems. And the commission, we're trying to do that, but it's hard. And so the more minds on that kind of a task, I'd say the better. So feel free, I would suggest to certainly come forward.
In the LDRs, section 110208, the general functions and powers of the board, building and zoning official under direction of the building shall serve as staff to the board. That's the P&Z board. The board may request information from any city department or official, and also names other things that we can and cannot. We can hold special meetings and so forth. So we've done 1 or 2 special meetings since I've been on, not too many, but we have that power in the LDRs to do that. Could do that perhaps more than we have been doing it, so.
Mayor, before we move on from this subject about the liaison, for some of the people that weren't sitting on this board when we talked about the liaison, the reasons why the commissioners can't come to our meetings, I think it would be good because I'm not sure if some people know, because it might be a question. That's tit for tat.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So do you?
It has something to do with our sunshine training, and based on the training that I've sat at and some of the other commissioners, we were told not to, that it might be a chilling effect on the board, and we were asked to, and of course, there could be a sunshine violation, but we were asked not to. Max, or Beverly, can you add to that? Some of the things that we've heard or been trained about why we can't go to their meetings?
Basically, the sunshine law says that if it's coming in front of the board, if they come and hear what you're saying, that makes a bias for their meetings. So the sunshine law basically says you're not supposed to hear what might be coming up to their board. So
Is it a question of participating, or can they just be there but not speak and get a feeling for what goes on? I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
And not and be involved. However, it's kind of, as the mayor was saying, if you're involved in a meeting or you even listen to a meeting, it might bias their own opinion of what's going on when they come to their own meeting for the final recommendation. So that could cause an effect.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
My understanding is it has less to do with sunshine law, simply because the sunshine law really regulates those on the same board, as opposed to, I'm not prohibited from talking to any of you because we're on different boards, but that there can be a perception of additional pressure by one of the commissioners being present. If you happen to know that they have a policy preference for an issue, then my presence in the room might be, interpreted as, advocating for my policy view, even though there are 4 other policy views that are going to participate in working out a solution, voting on a solution. So I was told that it had to do with that pressure that might be put on your all's board. You're really supposed to be autonomous in terms of making a recommendation to us. And because I've also been told that we're free to watch all your meetings. Okay, but if we're in the room, especially if it's on an issue that's then going to come before us, someone might say that there's been some kind of pressure, that,
Undue
like I'm giving you
pressure or
the evil eye across the room.
Right, it's that chilling
Yeah,
effect, and none
right.
of us are shy about our opinions.
No, we're not, are we?
We could have a chilling effect on your meeting.
Yes, it's not that we're disinterested and don't care or, you know, throwing up our hands about what you're doing, but we've been actually officially advised not to come to the meetings, so.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we've talked about items number A and B. Let me talk about item C, principles. How may principles of the planning board be aligned with the commission's principles to better serve the city? I think that is very much in tune with item, the next one, communication. We need to communicate, and that way you would know maybe what we're trying to do, especially on some frequent items that come up, like, for example, conditional use permits for a residential building in a commercial zone piece of property. Where are we heading? What is the maybe the consensus of the commission? And that should be able to be conveyed as we hold our meetings and we have workshops, and then it's picked up by whoever is conducting your items, your planning and zoning. But direct communication is probably the best. So, any other thoughts on principles? And Mr. Kincaid, if you want to elaborate on your question.
I was more just trying to avoid us going off in one trajectory when we're not aligned with the commission. And I think that's possibly happened a couple of times. And I'd like to figure out how to avoid that, because if we're going in two different directions, I think it affects our credibility, first of all, which I have, I think we all have a vested interest in maintaining our credibility to the citizens and especially to the commission. But also, I don't think it helps your credibility either if your board seems to be undermining you or if we're going in a different direction. So to the extent that we can avoid that by, and I think the communication is probably the best way, but to the extent that we can avoid that, I think we all benefit.
Okay.
I would think that you have to be very careful because we want to be autonomous and we
Right.
don't want to collude. There be any collusion, which I'm not saying there would be, but that's a possibility. That's all.
Right, and each case is on its own merits and its own facts, and so you have that. But there may be certain things that if we stick to principles of fact-finding and some of the more findings of fact, reasons for your decisions, that helps, that goes a long way, but a little more formality. That really helps. For example, I know Commissioner George, when she was mayor, she did an awesome job on a motion with findings of fact that in the end helped us win our case for the water slide, if you can recall that.
Thank you.
And so that goes a long, long way. And we have a lot of avid note takers on the commission that we try and do that. So that helps.
I think also the liaison will help us, and I know we haven't been doing that a lot lately, but we don't have any feedback. After we get rid of something, we do it, we dispose of it, it's gone in the minutes, it's wherever. And I don't think, unless we go do the research and find out what exactly happened to this item, so we don't know if you looked at it and went, that's ridiculous, get this out of here, or, yeah, we support that, or, so I don't, at least personally, I don't know what happens to this stuff when we get done with it. So I think it will help us to have a sort of a feedback loop so we can look back at the things that we've done and let us know if they're, out of order or in order or.
Mr. Kincaid, are you talking specifically about information that we get on agenda items for our agenda? Or are you just speaking in terms of generally things that your board handles?
Well, things that our board handles that moves to your board.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent
I
point.
don't
and
know
I think
that we
it's
get a
so-
feedback on
I
that.
think that that would be a wonderful tool
Yeah.
to be able to use for your board.
Yeah, I think the staff would be able to provide just a little update.
With the new
Mr. Law.
software, the zoning layers, the last layer we're rolling out, so I'm backdating it and it'll be provided to all boards once this is done. So I'm going backwards to the beginning of this fiscal year, so when the planning and zoning board sees conditional use, and it goes to the commission, just like you see my monthly report, which year we'll start whenever you, you'll get the same one that the commission gets. This will now be a history, so it's a lot of work for us to go back and recreate a program system. I took a program that's designed for building codes and merged it with the zoning. So we've created all facets of new layers, whether it be conditional uses, variances, anything that you see would go through the tree removals, right, 30 inches before. It's not a tracked item, it just goes to the board and that's the end of it. Well, now the board and the commission will be able to see, and I will rotate them through the fiscal years and reset it at each time, but we'll have that data at any one moment. So this is just another perk of this software that the city purchased. And we're hoping, I'm in November right now, but given the influx of permits, we are running out of time.
Commissioner Romo, you have an
Yeah,
idea.
I was thinking maybe even if we shared our minutes with you and highlighted what our decision was based on your recommendation. So you all have an idea of, okay, this is
That'd
where
be
we,
excellent.
where we went wrong, or this is where we went right, or why did they vote this way? And so that way it's kind of that communication without communicating.
So just like we get a copy of your minutes in our agenda book, and hopefully we get them before we have to, make a decision on it, we could ask your administrators to put a copy of our minutes in their agenda book.
Yes, ma'am. We will.
Okay, from the last meeting.
Books, so I'll have last month's
Okay.
commission meetings.
Any other ideas on that?
I was just wondering if that report that Max prepares for us on kind of the overall larger projects and matters that he's handling, our kind of task list that keeps updated, that might be helpful as well.
Okay.
It may be broader than the subject matter jurisdiction of your board, but still really play into it, because I'm sure people are asking you on the streets, well, what's going on with the Maratea development project, and it just has an overall kind of task list of status on some of these larger projects. If that's helpful to you, we can ask them to include, yeah.
So, Mr. Kincaid, will you follow up with the city manager and specifically ask what you would like included in your agenda book so you can all the members can stay in touch and read what they would like?
Okay.
Now, Mayor, I have a question for
Yes.
Mr. Law. Mr. Law, does the board get the publications, I think they're monthly publications from the Florida Association of Planning and Zoning, like with the case law updates?
No, ma'am. I've been aware of that. That's something. I don't know if there's a purchase fee or is it just for free online, but we can.
My recollection is that what used to have a subscription, but you're right, that maybe there's an online lower cost. But I found that extremely helpful because it would actually have the case law updates regarding, when a court overturns planning board decisions for conditional use or for, land use, different issues. And it helped me really refine the standards for those decisions. when
What
I
was that
served.
called?
The Florida Association for Planning and Zoning, or it could be the Florida Planning and Zoning Association. And they would publish these little monthly, appellate court case summaries.
I remember reading those too.
Remember those?
Yes.
It was like, it would, just a little pamphlet, smaller than the binder, so only like fit over 2 of the holes in the binder. It was bright green, I think,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, they were
There is a
helpful.
small fee, I believe we have. And it could be something making it happen. So we'll look into that this week.
Okay,
See what we can get.
great, thank you.
Any other thoughts on communications?
I just have an overall comment, and that is, we all know that communication works best when it's clear and it's effective. And it is important to remember that we're all here, every one of us, including all of the employees inside of City Hall, for the pleasure of the community, the people that live here. We all happen to live here too. So, it's about working together to accomplish great things for ourselves, our community, the people that live here. It's like teamwork makes the dream work. So that's important. Often kind of like tossed aside or we forget. I know that this has been a thing in my shop, my little shop, because I employ a lot of young people. And this is taking over the face-to-face conversations. And these younger people, and I even see, some of older than the young kids as well, have forgotten how to talk to each other. It's not, what do you want? It's, how can I help you? Kind of thing. So, yeah, clear, effective communication is what's going to save the day. Absolutely. Sorry.
All right.
Little bunny trail.
All right, I think the next item on variances and final development orders, I think we've talked quite a bit about the need for a little bit more formality and findings of fact and reasons for, but Commissioner Samora, anything you want to add since this was your item?
No, that item was specifically brought up because of what you had already mentioned about the Embassy Suites case and how the motion was, it was bulletproof, and so, good job, and.
So proud.
Thank you. Should be.
And that's the type of thing, especially when we know it's going to be something controversial, I believe we need to tighten those up a little bit.
Okay, here's a good one. Discussion of a planner. Of whether,
Before,
Yeah.
I have a lot of information that could potentially open the doors for better conversation regarding financing. Because that's kind of what it's going to come down to, is can you afford the planner?
Right.
I have spoken to you directly about this, but I haven't spoken to the other three commissioners.
okay,
This is a financing issue.
okay, well, let me open it up and then I'll let you jump in. How's that?
Yes, ma'am. I
Okay.
didn't want to give you the information after 30 minutes and then.
Right, okay, all right. So it's been brought up, and I know, and Mr. Law explained to me where he is a specialist in the building code, and what he does in the building department is making sure all the buildings adhere to our ordinances and the building code for the benefit of our residents when they build a home. A planner does more. For years, I talked to Gary, I wanted an architectural design code for the Beach Boulevard, or we wanted, how do we bring in more mixed use, or how do we use our commercial, how do we plan for our commercial, how do we, like our vision plan, how do we know where we're going, how do we invite more retail in and deal with the parking issues. So that's kind of what a planner does, and they're two separate things. And although the building department has tried, they've done an awesome job for us, but at the same time, it may be that we're at a critical mass point where there might be like Panama Hattie's renovation and other, we might get to a critical mass where we need to really get a handle on what goes in on the boulevard as it fills in. And so that might be something that we need to talk about. So, Mr. Law, would you like to?
Yes, ma'am. You've explained everything basically perfectly for that. So to understand this question and the need to finance one, the city has to generate the revenue to pay for a planner. Well, to understand that is the building department money cannot be utilized for anything other than building department operations. It's protected under statute. However, we run a second budget for planning and zoning. Bonnie is an expert in zoning, everyone's very familiar with her. She's paid 100% from that budget, but for me to make any zoning questions, review anything for zoning issues would be illegal unless I was compensated from the planning and zoning budget. So half of my salary comes from the planning and zoning, and then you can add the benefits and whatever that factor comes up to. Just the salary alone is about $41,000 or so. So to do a planner, you have an opportunity to break the department apart. The building department would maintain building, code enforcement, the CRS program, and the building code audit program. These are programs that provide the constituents better insurance rates. You could utilize that money keep in mind, Bonnie has been doing zoning since I've been here, reviewing site plans and all that, and we've run a two-party check on everything. I would recommend if you decide on a planner, whatever you decide, you'll have our complete support, but I do agree with Ms. England that a specialized planner is a very instrumental asset to the future development of the city. What they do it will not be saw next week. Their results will be in years, where my results are instantaneous. We build buildings, that's what we do. So you could allocate that money, break the department apart. Bonnie will still be in charge of zoning, and I would recommend, given the city's financial status, that you hire an entry-level planner that would do nothing but plan and learn the zoning. And at the time where Bonnie is not forcing I'm talking to the sunset from the drop program, and at that time, that planner should have enough experience in the city's zoning system to handle the planning and zoning department. And Bonnie's salary now funds an administrative assistant. So that sounds great, right? There's a good answer. However, if you decide on this, then when you ask me during a commission meeting what I think about building height, I can tell you the building code allows a 55-foot tall building. You know, I would no longer be the point of source for zoning questions, because 553 statute says you can't, I cannot do zoning or any other governmental entity. So that's, you would have a stall for a little bit, but while Bonnie's here with her 20 years of experience in zoning, I feel confident. This computer software can handle it. Bonnie's been doing the zoning reviews now for a while. She's been handling it. Most of you have been on the board. Bonnie's been steering you ever since. So that's a very good option, but I thought it was prudent to let you know that you do have a financial option before you debate.
Now, we're not going to make any decisions tonight on anything, where this is open discussion, and this is the first time it's really been discussed by the commission. So it's just, thoughts, whatever. Do you think we need one? Do you like one? Whatever, but no decisions tonight. So I open it up for the commission.
Just the commission, not the planning and zoning?
No, you both. I'm sorry. I did not mean just the commission. I was
Course of
going to let
habit.
the commissioners speak, and then, of course, Ms. Longstreet, of course.
Thank you. I was like, haven't said anything yet, so.
I think it's important to the overall vision of the city and what it's going to become for someone to take that and steer the ship in that direction. If we've got turnover on this board and on the commission, you kind of lose sight of that over certain time periods. Since I've been on the board 2 years, I keep hearing these little things that someone said 6 years ago, and then you don't really see it being implemented except every once in a while. So I think it's important to have a direction to go through and that person to carry out that vision. And it is a long term. It's not worrying about 6 weeks from now what the boulevard's going to look like. It's a master plan.
The problem is that we do have one, we have a vision plan. And we've had a vision plan because we've had our citizens do a vision plan. And I know we've sat through someone that we've paid to do a vision plan, and we've done nothing with that vision plan.
Are you talking about the 2006 vision plan?
Yes.
It's a good one still. I like it.
And we've had a vision plan, and our citizens have done something with it, and it's a shame that, we're talking about, we haven't had one, and we haven't done anything, and we need to do this, and we have to spend a lot of money to hire someone to do something, when our citizens have put a lot of time and energy into doing something that we've not done anything with. And our citizens are willing to take time and energy to help and work with the city commission and to work with the city and to help. I mean, it's their city too, and they want to help. And they're not going to cost anything to do something and to do it. And they put a lot of thought and planning into it. And they come from all walks of life and from all types of businesses. And I don't know why we haven't utilized it, and I don't know why we haven't used it.
We have used it in various ways, right?
Not the way it should be done.
Well,
And
I guess
another-
I'd like to understand that more, because, we've adopted the mixed-use ordinance. We did studies on the roundabouts, and we were, told those were not feasible at the time.
Right away.
Right, in the right-of-way. Yeah, we looked at angled parking. You know, we have seen increased development on the boulevard that is more mixed use and pedestrian friendly. I understand we've been kind of cherry picking, and I'm not sure why that decision was originally made. That was a decision before me that we cherry pick. And I've thought about it quite a lot over the years, and I'm saying, well, we did use it to inform amendments to our comprehensive plan and our LDR reviews, and so I'm kind of at the point now, I'm like, well, what is it we haven't done? I can tell you one thing we haven't done, that's underground the utilities. Okay?
That's what
right.
And
you
that
brought
needs-
that up and you liked that.
Yeah, you
It was.
did.
It was
You're
the first thing I did as a
expensive,
commissioner.
but-
You're the first person that brought that
Right,
up.
That's right.
exactly. And so I'd like to see us do that, right? But what more do we have to do? Formally adopting that vision plan wouldn't really do much. We still have to implement, right? So I kind of feel like we've implemented just about everything. I haven't looked at it in a long time. I should go back and look at it, make sure there's not more
We
we've
haven't
missed.
implemented, we've looked at, and we've said, maybe not angle parking,
Well, I
maybe
think that
not-
gets to Mr. Pranis's points, that if there's somebody in staff, you know, who that's their job, because I don't know that that's the city manager's job. Is that his job? Is it the building director's job?
No.
Is it the commission's job? I don't know. You know, is it possibly, but I don't know. I mean, is it the PZ's job? It makes kind of sense.
I
what
kind of thought
your-
it was
your point
something
was.
that we were supposed to work on together. Was kind of my understanding. But, and it's strange, here we are, and, you know, not to be rude, but the only two that understand what I'm talking about when I talk about things are Mayor England and Commissioner George, because the three of you haven't been on the planning and zoning. And it used to be an unwritten rule of law, not really, but an unwritten rule that to be on the commission, you really needed to be on the planning and zoning board to understand why, or to be a part of the commission. It was kind of like those stepping stones, you know, to be on the commission, you should be on the planning and zoning board. Then you know, run for commission. And that's the way it used to be. That's the way you guys did it.
Two of them have been elected, you know.
Well, it doesn't
So-
matter.
So, I
It's
mean,
three
just,
of
you know,
them
all
have
due
not
respect to
been-
them, they've been.
It doesn't
and
matter.
you've got your turn coming up.
Okay, it really
But-
doesn't matter. Three of them have not been on the P and Z.
Well, I can tell you, I've had about 12 years of experience presenting and doing stuff with planning and zoning, not only in Duval County, but St. Johns County, where I've brought public-private partnerships, where I've gone through the beginning to the end of all projects, including the Volano Beach Publix, which I found and did by myself.
Right, and that's great.
And then
That's
the
great,
proton
Commissioner
therapy
Rumrell, that's great.
Proton therapy
But you
center.
haven't been on our P and Z.
And I appreciate that, I understand, but I.
I'm not trying to be
No,
rude.
that's fine. I'm just saying that
saying.
I think, understand our background as well, that, I take it, not personally, but I understand what you're saying, and I feel that my experiences have given me just as much, if not more, than your experiences sitting on that board.
Right, I'm not
No, no, I'm just-
saying,
I'm just countering back what you
saying
said.
This is the way it has been. So when I'm like, you know, looking at different things, I'm like, you know, when you're talking about expectations and values and principles and all of these different things, and that we should, you know, come to your meetings and we should, you know, explain things to you. Some things and not everything, I understand that you guys look at things and go, why? You know, and look at things in question. But I bet the two of you probably know this is why they did this, you know, just because they were on the board before. And I'm sure they've been here enough and they've put in the time that they probably already knew why we did what we did. Not everything, but I'm sure they know that. And the three of you don't.
Well, we'll try and do, like I say, do more training for all of us on what your duties are and some of the things that like variances, conditional use permits, ordinances, sunshine law. We're really going to try to do and more training, make it available for everybody. So we've all been grounded at the same place. and that will help. If you want to conclude your comments on the planner, if you.
Right, I'm just saying, when I was looking at this before, the other day, I was looking at, on my email that I got, that I just got into, I was looking at it and I thought, well, this is kind of what, in my thought, is what the planning and zoning and the commission were supposed to do together. And when I was on the beautification board, actually, we would have meetings between the three of us when I was chair of the beautification board. And the three committees would sit together and we would go over everything. And then we would kind of go, well, this is why we're not doing this, or this is why this doesn't work. And we would kind of have that round robin
More
kind of
workshops,
thing.
I hear you telling me, more
And-
workshops.
But that's kind of what I thought, why, that's the planner. Between those three boards, that kind of made sense to me. And that's what we did years ago. That was what I thought the planner was,
Okay.
those three boards getting together.
Okay,
I kind of feel, I'm certainly not against a planner, a separate planner. I don't know if it should be in-house or from outside. Visioning Committee from 2006, I was on that committee. I think it did a lot of good things. Some of them were, I feel, implemented, some weren't, which is okay also, but that's like 20 years, that's like 14 years ago. So is our goal still the same, or do we really need a new vision? If we wanted to do an in-house workshop and have the people come out and advertise it like we did for the old one, I'd rather see a new one to see where we are right now with the population that's over 7,000 people. Before it was done was probably maybe over 5,000. Yeah, I mean, really.
It was like 4,500 or 4,800.
And I don't know if we could do it in-house. The P&Z and the commission, that would be quite a bit of work and quite a bit of meetings. Now, I'm not saying I'm against it, or I wouldn't do it. I'm only on the P&Z for another about 8 months, and then my 9 years are up. And I have to leave, so, no, I mean, that's what you're required to do, leave. I don't have to leave, but anyway.
the city manager has started a draft of a new vision plan, mission statement with some things, so that will be with input from the commission. So
Well,
we've just got our first draft, and it's going to be brought back up on the agenda. And so maybe we can talk about that, sharing it with planning and zoning, and then go from there. But,
That would be a good idea.
yeah.
So this is first, obviously, on this
Right.
side of the room, we're hearing about the possibility that Max is starting a new visioning. So, just, yeah.
Well, I think that one of the things that we just talked about before with providing you with the minutes from our meeting and the update that Max provides every month will help this, right?
I think,
And I
yeah,
don't want
sure.
to glaze over your concerns, Ms. Longstreet, because I think that it's important, especially if you are feeling the way that you do about the commission as a whole. I'm concerned about the statement that you said that, because I wasn't on the planning and zoning board, that I'm not understanding what you're saying. Because I don't think that that's true.
Sometimes
But,
we all feel that way.
sure.
And if everybody's going to be honest, like, we kind of feel that way.
I think that we're 12 people that represent this community. I don't think it's 5. We may be elected, but you're appointed by an elected body. You are representatives, and we're not the only ones that are supposed to do the job, right? We are all supposed to do it together. And I think that's where, your service, maybe it's different than some of the commissioners, but we rely upon you to be, have your finger on the pulse of the community. And it's okay if you end up making a decision that the commission doesn't follow. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it necessarily says that, we, don't think you're doing a good job or anything like that. And I've seen this city where it was like every time a recommendation came through, it wasn't followed. And I don't think we're there anymore. I think that was in the past. It was with different boards. And all of us five, we don't always agree. We, don't have unanimous votes all the time, and that's okay, because we're all representing, yeah, it is. And if over time, if every single one of your recommendations gets turned down by the commission, somebody up here is going to be voted off the commission. That's just, because somebody's out of touch, and that's okay, because I think that's just part of the natural ebb and flow. And so it's almost, in a way, an asset that we all have different perspectives and experiences to bring to the table. I see it. So I think it all comes back to communication, and that everybody and communication is a two-way street, And I speak for myself when I say I don't do enough of a good job reaching out to each of you. And I apologize for you for that. And we get overloaded with all that we have to do, plus live our own lives. And I'm sure you feel similarly, but I'm just going to extend again an invitation to please call me, email me, stop by my office on 11th Street. And, I'm here because I want to do a good job, and I think that's true of all 12 of us. So, if you wonder why we didn't follow your recommendation, I'd say, well, reach out to us. Not maybe, ask us to talk to each other, we can't, but I'm sure each one of us would be happy to discuss it. And maybe that'll change your mind on the policy, maybe not. I think that's good if we have difference of opinion, so.
Well, I think part of it is going to be to help, that liaison position will help, because I don't know that you reading the minutes gives you an accurate, and that at your last meeting, I think, was a perfect example. I'd like to answer a question you had a minute ago, Commissioner George, about who's responsible for the vision. And I think all of us, the city staff, the city contractors, your board, our PZB, everybody is responsible for working toward the vision. And I think all of us are here because we want to do a good job as well. Excellent. And we want to support the city and make this place a better place to live and a better place for people to enjoy life if they don't live here. But so I guess in that respect, we do want to make sure that our voices are heard and recognized and understood. And I think, to the extent possible, the comments you were making a minute ago about maybe more accurate minutes and more detail in the minutes, I think we obviously need to work on that. And there's a number of things.
That was not so much more detail in the minutes, but I'm going to reference back to the Embassy Suites case where we were given your recommendation, but when you looked at the motion, it wasn't specific as to why the final development order was either approved or denied. And when it came to us, it fell upon us to, and again, then Mayor George did a very nice job of detailing out something that ended up going before 3 judges, I believe, before it was finally upheld. But we had to go back to very specific reasons for denying, in that case, the water park. So that's what I'm referring to, not so much accurate minutes. I mean, I think the liaison would cover that, but it's when there's going to be especially a denial of a controversial motion, project, either a variance or a final development order, to get more specific as to it violates this portion of the code, or we feel it goes against the intent of this portion of the code, that type of thing.
That's the key.
The attorney.
That's the key to the information. There's a lot of stuff since I've been sitting on this board that becomes more opinion than black or white with the code.
Right.
So if you're not getting that enough information, there's a good chance that someone's opinion seemed to overrule what the code was and what we're supposed to do based on the facts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can ask the city attorney, say, city attorney, what facts do I need to, build into my motion? Because it's just really taken from the section of the code where, and variance is an easy one, because you're all familiar with, there's certain elements that you have to weigh and consider. how is the hardship shown? How is this shown? Are there topographical factors? And so, and you're making your motion, you say, due to the topography that, limits the, the creek that runs through, prohibits the, construction, therefore we're going to grant, just articulating those facts. But you don't have to know it. There's no special formula in advance. Your city attorney is the professional that should be able to help craft that too, if you need the help. So.
This is a good opportunity to brought up the city planner possibility. If we could, I'm not saying I have really that much more to say about it, but if we could stay on maybe that point a little bit longer, because we don't always get to talk to each other. And
Well, I think that's good, because I remember we all decided way back, which is brand new on the commission, coming from P&Z, and we decided we needed an overhaul of all our ordinances. And talking to Gary Lorson, and I came before the P&Z and said, can Gary and I do it? And you said, no, we want somebody from the outside. We want a consultant to get this done. And so that's kind of, I think that's where we work together.
I remember exactly, and you coming before.
Right, we work together on things, and this is a topic that, where the commission's going to think about it, you think about it, think about what could a planner do for us? Is it one-time thing? Is it like I say, I'm concerned about architectural design, the parking, how to get more retail, mixed use, how to enhance revenue, and fill in, and I think, so there are specific things a planner could do for us. And so your thoughts, as well as the commission, will start percolating this.
Is there a benefit to hiring an entry-level planner that comes in that we basically train over the years, as opposed to hiring a contractor planner that's a specialty in whatever segment of planning that we're looking to do?
There are a lot of cities that have their own internal planning person. The city of St. Augustine, I believe, has 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
That's right.
And it's not just about the constructural factors that you think about when you think about planning, but it's also long-term effects that would affect our community, like sea level rise, like the ocean encroachment on land. There's a lot of different things that we as a beachside community need to think about and plan for. Our beach renourishment right now, as it stands, is a limited time. So what do we do when that runs out? Those are the kinds of things that a planner would work on also.
I agree. What's going to happen when Beach Boulevard is over the traffic ratio?
Correct.
It's too crowded.
Right.
How are you going to reroute traffic? That, maybe we're talking 10, 15 years, but maybe we're talking 8 years.
But we need to start thinking about it now.
But we need a plan now.
Right.
If we were up to 50, 70% now, I'm just pulling that
Or
out.
what do
are
we
we
do
gonna
with the piece
How
of
we gonna-
property, the old city hall, that piece of property? That, yeah.
Right.
But I also think having, an in-house person will get the knowledge that we have from Ms. Miller. And I think that's the institutional knowledge that we need from my perspective. And I also think it's cheaper. I think you start paying a consultant each time you have something, they're going to look at you and say, you need this done, this is my price, and if you don't like it, then you go to the next person. So I think, to your point, I think having that in-house person, even if it's a part-time person, to kind of learn and take over from Ms. Miller when she's done. I think she's got 5 or 6 years left. 4.5.
But you're not counting.
But, so that way we have a succession plan, because I'm really big on having succession plans for the people that are the most critical to both you all and to us and to our citizens. That's what we need to start looking at.
The citizens need to feel that they have obviously a stake, because they're the residents, and that's what we're here for them. And sometimes they don't always agree with us or you, and they're the majority of a third opinion, let's say. And to make a plan in long range and to get it up to speed to something is really important.
All right, anything else on any other members of the P&Z want to weigh in on planner? Okay, any thoughts you have, you can, okay.
Would it be
for a point of discussion to keep it forefront in our.
Do you have a comment period where we have a comment period?
Board member comments.
And
We have
we
board
might put it
comment,
on our agenda
public
a little
comment.
bit after, I mean, usually what the commission does is after we talk about something and we mull over it and get something specific, then Max, the city manager, will put it on the agenda with some alternative, something definite we can mull over. And so that could be something that you could decide how you want to proceed on your agenda to talk about it.
Well, we also have the list of pending items, and it could be up here on, we do, in our book every week, of things that may not appear on the agenda, but they're still on our mind.
I think even community workshops, you know, if lay out to the community, hey, this is what's coming up, come back and talk to us. Let's have a joint meeting and have a community workshop at the same time where we get that input from the local residents who want, to help shape, because 2006 is great. It's 2020, and a lot has changed in 14 years. And so the number of residents in St. Johns County as a whole has gone from, 145,000 people now to almost 270,000 people. So, that 14 years difference, engaging in the public, because public, we have few that come to our meetings, you probably have a few that come to yours, and then the rest, they don't come. And so it's like, how do we engage, how do we get them energized, I guess is the question.
The visioning, there were quite a good turnout of the public. It
Right.
That was a
about and talked
very
up
formal process.
Yeah, and we
with
had
that
little
consultant,
workshops, we
yeah.
were leading certain aspects, and then we moved around.
And I think doing that again,
Yeah,
kind of
maybe,
update.
maybe it's time for
Time.
that.
How long was that process, by the way, when, I know you were involved in that?
Gosh, it was.
Half a year to
It-
4 or 5 months?
at least
Yeah, it was at least, I mean,
6 months.
I think
Maybe
so. They
9
had
months until the report
charrettes
came out.
and, because they were developing a vision, not just a planning. It was developing the vision for what the city should be. And here we're talking about maybe taking that, maybe updating our vision plan, and then what are the alternatives to obtain a planner? And
Yeah.
we've got, consulting, part-time, we need to do some more homework and lay out some alternatives before we can formally discuss it.
I love the 2006 vision plan. I actually pull it out quite often. I've got it on here, and I was looking at it not 2 weeks ago. So, just perspective-wise, that was probably started an economic boom, 2006, right? And housing boom, everything was going crazy. It was followed by a 7-year recession, being conservative. So even though it's 14 years old, we're just now getting to a point where some of these things are taking shape. And you'd be surprised at how much has been done. Maybe some of it was Embassy Suites. There was a whole hotel concept that was on that property. So not exactly what's there now, but it's pretty close. So I love the fact that this is coming up. I love the fact that we've got something to go back and reference. I think it is time to update it, whether it's done internally with a planner, or I don't know, that we hired someone externally to come up with that, correct?
That was an external.
Lead the process anyway.
That was a consultant.
It's a great starting point, whether we update it internally with a planner, we update it with community workshops, but I would love to see that dusted off, brought back out and updated, and done on a continual basis. That's exciting to me.
I think we wouldn't have to start from square
We
one.
don't have to start
Right,
from
exactly.
scratch,
We've got a
no.
great plan, it just needs to be updated and implemented.
What
as
what
when we-
Vice Mayor says all the time is don't recreate the wheel.
Right.
Build the wheel, don't recreate it.
Take it, build
Make it
on it, and, if the city's going to ever expand or grow, I think an internal planner would definitely be needed for something like that.
Just as a resident, aside of this board I sit on, as a resident, I would love to see a planner that is our planner, not somebody we hired and paid a lot of money to. Not that they don't do good work, I'm not saying that, but I just think if we had someone, if the commission had an issue, the other person would be right there. They would be the expert in time of what needs to be done, what cannot be done. And I just think in-house, that's just, as a resident, I think in-house is the best way to go.
I agree with that, because then they own it. A consultant goes to the next job.
Right.
Somebody in-house, they own that. So their vested interest, to your point, Vice Chair, is the same thing.
Well, keep in mind, we have 1,000 hotel rooms, and that vision plan heavily talked about the highest and best use for the corridor and how many free beach walkovers we have, what's happened on tourism, how we become on the map. So all the planning on how to manage that swell that's coming our way would be a good thing. All right.
Great.
Okay.
I think Mr. Law.
Okay.
Mayor, is with the adoption of the comp plan coming stages at the state level, the city will be required to create climate adaptation plan, address certain things, so they will have work, but I would strongly recommend Bonnie, in her wisdom, that you do hire an entry level, because the wash between salaries will be relatively close. I haven't looked into what a starting planner makes in years, but I know with the county, it was right around 47,000. Granted, that was a couple of years ago. So you could physically do it, and the benefits would wash mine, I would imagine. It's a linear scale at that point. You do have that option. There is no reason, as Commissioner Cade said, to go out and hire top of the heap right now. You have the opportunity, with the comp plan being done, everybody knows how big of a project that is. That gives a long window for the new planner, for he or she, to get a hold of the zoning code, understand it, start working on it with Bonnie. I do recommend at that time, if the commission and the planning zone board decides to go that way, that planner works for Bonnie, given Bonnie's institutional knowledge here. And then at the time of her retirement, the planner now runs the planning and zoning department. So it's a 5-year investment into the future of the city.
And what would be your role, Mr. Law?
I would be funded solely by building department finances. I would continue, obviously, building official. I would also do the CRS program, that's our flood insurance program. I would also do the building code audit programs, and I would still maintain authority over the code enforcement program.
So we'd be subdividing the department or bifurcating it into building department and planning zoning?
Yes, ma'am, that would be my recommendation, with Bonnie steering the planning and zoning department until the time the commission felt the planner was ready, which I would recommend no earlier than upon Bonnie's retirement, or at least 6 months prior. That way the passing of the torches works, and then the hiring of the administrative assistant.
Is it typical for a city of this size and budget?
You could, as long as the building, because the money's already here, you would just reallocate it. So instead of half of my salary, the building department would absorb that half of the salary. So you would take that half, which comes from your general funds and your planning and zoning budget, it's already there. You just, instead of moving it to my side, you move it over to this side. Bonnie's 100% paid by the planning and zoning budget already.
What about when the building slows in a
The
lower
state of Florida authorizes me to charge whatever necessary to run the department. But we also are allowed to hold a reserve money just for any slow seasons. Code enforcement does not generate revenue. Traditionally, that's not the intent of code enforcement. We don't want to go out and find people. But they do run our transient rental program. So it's essentially self-sustaining at that point until the state decides what to do.
Wait, so would both departments be paid by building and planning zoning fees, or would part of it get funded by the general fund?
Okay, I think I understand what you're asking me. Right now, we run 2 budgets. We have the building, which is under protective inspections, and we have the planning and zoning budget. The building department stands alone. It's required to. It has to. Now, in the event of a severe economic downturn, you still have to have a building department. But that's what that reserve money authorized by the state's for. So as long as it does responsible charging, it can handle a downturn. And keep in mind, as you know, budgets can always be trimmed. You can tighten it a little bit. But the planning and zoning budget would pay the administrative assistant, if we're talking 5 years from now, and the planner. At that point, if the city decided on this course, all money from site plan reviews would be automatically transferred to the general budget for planning and zoning. So I would no longer be looking at a site plan for your zoning codes. That is something that's actually going to happen one way or the other. We're already preparing for that to happen. That's just transferring from one account to the other. And I was going to ask the commission we didn't get to the fee schedule, I pulled it because I was concerned about something else. But one way for it to generate money is the cost of the planning and zoning. You know, the time, the legal costs, all that money. I believe last year, we raised fees for the planning and zoning because we were essentially, I didn't think we were even covering our operational costs at that point. I would definitely not recommend increasing variances. We took them to $400,
Yeah.
that's enough. But there are other avenues, you know, you can do that, then you could end up with the possibility of stormwater tax. There are avenues. But right now, you could do it for a wash with an entry level planner, not,
I think some of the questions, we're just dipping our toe in the
Yeah,
water here.
sorry.
So a
Digging
lot of
in
the
too
questions,
deep
no, that's,
for a
I
workshop.
think if we send our questions to the city manager, because now our homework, all our research starts, what are the questions? What are the alternatives? What would we like a planner to do? Is it a part-time job? It is a one-time job? That kind of thing. So now that we've dipped our toe in this, please send all your questions to the city manager. He can gather them, and we'll start developing something for the agenda. It'll take a couple of months, though, I think, for us to do that.
I think it would be instrumental to get with the city of St. Augustine and figure out how they work it within their budget and allocations.
I have actually reached out to John Reagan and asked him if I could just sit, first of all, I was trying to understand what a city planner does, but if I could just sit with their department and learn something, and then report back.
Great, awesome.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, okay, let's talk about dealing with sea level rise, our environmental side, okay? This question is resiliency, sustainability, the role of the planning board in this.
And I think that a planner would be instrumental in helping to accomplish laying the groundwork for all of these things.
Who proposed this question?
I think it came from some meetings or one meeting and comments by Mr. Craig Thompson, and meetings that the city manager and I had with him, but it's listening to CPAC.
Okay. That's why I wrote a note, like, who suggested?
I think we do have a third board that is interested in those items.
I think they're very interested.
Right, right.
I just wanted to know whose idea.
Yeah, no, good question, no, it's fine.
Where was the question coming from?
Yeah.
What's the perspective?
So I think with our update to our comp plan, we probably, and once the comp plan is finalized and all the strikeouts and additions and everything, I've asked that the comp plan be put in all of our agenda books, so we have it very close to us and we can, just have it in our books, to have it there, and we can read it, and that'll help guide us with some of the things that come before us.
Great idea, yeah.
Madam Mayor, just so you know, we've ordered you actually are getting 1-inch binders with the comprehensive plan.
I think having it in our books.
We can do that too. Saying we're preparing.
Because that's kind of where I want mine in my book, when I do my reading and my agenda items, I can have it right in there. If it'll fit, and maybe if it'll fit, that'll be fine.
We'll do the best we can.
Okay,
But if it doesn't fit, we have binders ready for all the board members with a
Okay.
nice pretty cover.
all right,
And we're just waiting on the final adoption from the DEO.
okay, all
We
right.
don't have books, we just get, I mean, I'm not being petty, but that's how, we don't have books.
Oh, you don't?
anymore. No, we just get a packet with our information, we bring it, but we were given everything, and then we were told we wouldn't get binders, so, but we all have the current, what we have.
They have the current land development code, our community code, which is our most updated.
Right.
And then I was gonna discuss later, the planning and zoning board has said of the packets that are dropped off on their doorsteps, if they wanted a hard binder, but if we do the hard binder, we're more than happy to provide that. We just ask that they be left after the meetings, and if you don't attend the meeting and you don't let us know, we need that binder back so we can build the new one.
I think that was the problem. When we used to get, when Steve and I first were on, we got binders, but people didn't get the binders back to be refilled, and they got lost in one thing, So that's why we don't have binders anymore.
So we
you want
got
binders?
No, it's,
No, we're good.
we wanted the LDRs
Yeah, we have them now.
updated because,
Okay.
and then some of the newer members didn't have a copy. So
Right.
when you go to a meeting, unless you had a computer, which I don't like to use, which we weren't all going to get 7 computers for us, we need to, I'm sorry, we needed to cut down a tree, but I think it's important, so we got
is,
copies.
sure.
And the same thing with the new
Bigger
comp
tools.
plan, we'll need, I would like a copy. I don't want to go on my
Just for
computer that I don't
clarification.
have.
Yes.
Sorry, just for clarification, staff, does the planning zoning board want a hard binder, or do they want to continue with the packets?
Packets.
I'm good with that. I want the binder for my LDR.
Well, you have that one,
That.
right? And you'll get another one with the comp plan.
The comp plan,
I got
that'd be good.
That's good.
Okay, so we'll keep operating on operating? Okay.
And also, can we just verify that all of the board members have the vision plan? And if you don't have it, just ask staff for copies so you can just look at it and simmer ideas, right? Since it's gonna be- It is on the website.
We'll provide copies for next Tuesday. We'll have 7 copies and then 2 in reserve for March. Commission need any while we're printing?
I've got mine.
Electronic.
I have electronic.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to add some thoughts on sea level rise, resiliency, and sustainability?
I don't have enough knowledge to make a,
Well, I know a couple members of CPAC are here, and we're going to have public comment, so.
I'm glad that you are doing something about the 12th Street, so that won't happen again,
Correct, correct.
because that
And-
didn't come before us.
And that permit is not a continuing permit, there's no maintenance as a part of it. So as the sand naturally accretes back to, fill in the hole in the dune, the property owner should not be able to get another permit. So,
I think this goes back to the original, you discussed earlier, the educational opportunities. I know it's a hot topic in the state, so.
absolutely. Yes, now I'm the, appointed liaison for the Florida Shore and Beach Preservation Association, and it's extremely educational. I learn about a lot of great planning things that are going on in counties and cities, as well as at the state level. There's a whole bunch of money being thrown at it right now because it speaks to the primary foundation of our state, as well as our tourism industry and everything. But it is a much larger issue than this city. And what I'm walking away from primarily is that, from these conferences, is that all the municipalities, none of them can do it alone, right? We're not the only little city on a barrier island who doesn't have control over the ocean, but they are all getting planners of one form or another, whether it just be that the new hire has that background as well, or current positions get phased over into that, or hiring consultants. And I think it's really just kind of putting somebody in charge so that they can be the coordinator with the state resources, local resources and federal resources. And as the larger players start looking for a more permanent solution, we can be a participant. And then, of course, our boards are bringing us other ideas along the way. We accounted for some of those suggestions in our comp plan. And, everything down to vegetation selections. And we've been talking a lot on the commission about looking at our stormwater master plan. We're almost done implementing it, but that certainly ties into, the infrastructure needs to manage the storm level surges, so. It really feels over my head too, because it's like so overwhelming, but I think that speaks back to the issue of a planner, so.
Commissioner George, I know Talking about sustainability, everybody knows, I think, that I'm a Realtor. So Florida Association of Realtors has a special committee for that. So does the National Association of Realtors. So it's, like you said, it's not just our little town. And, things are really coming out of the realtors. And well, you know that as well. But, so everybody's working toward, and some good information that's coming out. Now, we're looking at things for homeowners, and in writing in contracts that they can and can't do.
Right.
Which will affect us here, that we won't let somebody do what happened on 12th Street type
Right.
thing, for example. So it is, the nation is looking at sustainability of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I had today a meeting with our property appraiser, Eddie Creamer, and he's, going to be bringing forward a request for the county to purchase a software program, which is like a more advanced version of Google Earth Street View, in that it will have 365-degree views every 16 feet to document not only the private property, but also for his appraisal purposes, but also city assets along the way, right-of-ways, all kinds of everything, street poles, and the other critical tool that it would provide for a planning purpose is it would be synced with what the sea level height is. So with that, you can actually generate a visual representation of what would this street look like up to the front door of the house or the business with an extra 6 inches of sea level at this location. And so that could be charted throughout the whole county. All right, so for planning purposes, you really could get into saying, oh, wait a second, this is a tangible goal. Now we know what we need to plan for the next 20 years or the next 50 years. So it's exciting that that type of technology is becoming available, and it might be implemented here, within the next year or two, so.
I know that there have been good stories out there of coastal cities that have taken steps to harden their utilities. And one thing I was kind of taught was, if you're out there, if your public works is out there digging anywhere, bury something.
Yes.
And so we do have neighborhoods that have buried utilities, but some that don't. Would those neighborhoods like a special assessment to harden their neighborhood, bury utilities? There's all kinds of things we could consider and think about, but we do need to think about how to harden this coastal community and protect it from hurricanes and sea level rise. So good, if you hear any good stories about what a city did and where they got the money, bring it back to us.
Free money.
Right. Okay, anything else on that topic? I think we've talked about training quite a bit. Okay, how, is this joint meeting, is it helpful? How often would you like to do it? Is once a year enough? What do you think?
I would think every 6 months. I don't think every quarter is necessary, but, because we all have a lot to do, but I think every 6 months. That's my personal opinion. Because this is some nice dialogue that's going on.
Or maybe at
We don't have the opportunity.
critical junctures, as we zero in on maybe a discussion about a planner, or zero in on a critical topic, we set up a joint meeting?
I mean,
Okay.
I think that as the chair and the mayor, if something came up that
Okay.
we reach out
Okay.
to each other.
Yeah, it can be requested,
I'd
for
like to see what
sure.
kind of changes we're able to make as a board based on tonight's meeting, and see where we can move from there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't see that we need to have another one until, like, if we get a planner, and then, or we start a vision committee or plan or something, then it would be great to have a meeting.
Okay.
whatever that is, whether it's 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. or-
Well, you can always reach out to your chair and say, we want to talk to the commission.
That flexibility is.
Right.
Yeah.
Or with my big mouth, it doesn't matter, I would just go right to the source.
Okay, all right. I think we're ready for some public comment.
Max, would you like to run the clock up there, or would you like me to come up there and run the clock?
Who submitted
Mr. Ed Slavin.
I have a stopwatch here.
Do you need a card?
Oh, what?
Do you need to submit a card?
No.
It helps our clerk.
Yes.
It helps our clerk.
Yes. Beverly said yes.
For, at some point, yeah, before you leave.
Good evening. Ed Slavin, box 3084, cleanupcityofaugustine.blogspot.com. I have not heard anyone, Mr. Law, by the way, just left. He doesn't want to hear what I have to say. Mr. Law took a leave of absence last week, and now he's here mysteriously, but I want to ask him some questions about the hostile working environment to which Jane West was subjected as the chair of the Planning and Zoning Board, and to which Elise Sloan was subjected to as the vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Board. They both resigned. And this hostile working environment extends to other people too, including me. Let me point out that this meeting tonight is being held as a direct conflict with the scheduled meeting of the City of St. Augustine City Commission. 2 meetings back-to-back in St. Augustine Beach, and that man, Bruce Max Royal, has actually said to me in the past when he's done this, "Oh, you're the only one who complained." I'm also the one who complained about the sexist, misogynist county administrator, Michael David Wanchek, who was fired last year, mistreated women employees for years. I'd like to ask Brian William Law about his relationship with a subordinate. I'd like to ask him about the city's lack of a fraternization policy. And I'd like to ask him specifically about all of the concerns that Jane West and Elise Sloan raised in their joint resignation letter about how they were treated and how the city staff treated them as PCB members. And until we address that, this meeting is not complete, and this public comment is not meaningful. And I'm really disappointed in the commissioners and the PCB members. None of y'all mentioned that letter of resignation. It's the elephant in the room. And as Tom Wickers, journalism professor, said many years ago at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, if you're going to tell a story about a bear, bring on the bear. Brian William Law has left the room. He doesn't have any respect for y'all. He doesn't have any respect for the zoning process or the planning process. He functions effectively as a dictator, and the proof of that is that he has apparently, according to Ms. West and Ms. Sloan, not related to the commissioners things that they said to him in meetings. And then he keeps both of y'all in the dark. He keeps all of us in the dark. And he's condescending. And when Mayor Undine Pawlowski George told me to talk to Mr. Law about my concerns about Embassy Suites, do you know what Mr. Law said to me? Beat it. You don't live in the city. You don't have a zoning application pending. The man is crude and rude and sexist and misogynist. And I would like Max Royal to report to us as to what he's doing about Brian William Law. And does he have an intimate personal relationship with a subordinate? Why did he take a leave of absence last week? Why is he here today? And why didn't you ask, please don't interrupt, I've got the talking stick.
No, personnel, please.
Stop the clock, please. I've got time on the clock.
It's past the 2 minutes.
This is a workshop, please.
There were 9 seconds left when you interrupted.
All right.
If I may finish.
All right.
We have a right to know, we need to ask questions and demand answers and expect democracy. And personnel is certainly covered by 119 and 286, and we have a right to ask questions about how employees are treated in City Hall and about how these volunteers, these hardworking volunteers in PCB are treated. And I'm not satisfied with how this meeting has been conducted. Thank you very much.
All right, next, who else would like to speak?
Miss Ann Palmquist?
Would you take the microphone?
Is it 2 minutes or 3 minutes?
3 minutes, okay.
Hard to find a place to, Ann Palmquist, 213 10th Street. It's hard to find a place where I can look at everybody in the eye, but I'm a firm believer in that. I do think there are issues been raised tonight. One is communication. I've raised the issue before. I asked the city for the copy of the agenda because I didn't have it as far as for tonight's meeting, and that was provided. I did ask for a copy of the 2 letters that were of concern that Mr. Slavin has raised, as far as these were highly qualified people, and as opposed to printing off the PDF was not possible in the second. It was on the agenda, but not on the letters. But I did receive them, and I'll figure out how to get copies, or I'll simply come
in person and ask for a copy of them. I do think communication is part of the biggest problem. We have people on the board beautification that are part of but not included in this other than question and answer, which I think is a shortfall. And I do think that the work that the different volunteer committees do is very valuable and has a lot of insight. I've said it before, it's hard to go to Publix without running into somebody that you know or that they know and so forth. And the discussion is usually on something that pertains to the city, not necessarily that has come before the board. Election time is always a fun time. However, that's election all year long, as far as I'm concerned, on what you are doing, what the boards are doing, and how we can do a better way of communicating with the citizens. I have serious issues with the water as far as the water to sewer to septic to sewer, and the proposal of generating income for the water department, because you'll be billed. A lot of people will not even raise the issue because, oh, that's too expensive, they don't want to bill. And there are different issues that individuals have asked me about. I too am a licensed realtor. I choose not to practice in public as far as that. I do for my own. But I do appreciate the chance to speak, and I think it's a good start as far as to revive what you've had in the past, what has worked, and then build on that instead of always something new. The new cloth may not quite fit as well for our community.
Mayor, didn't we decide we were going to have workshops with both of the boards, but at different times?
We hadn't really made a firm decision on that, but we certainly can do that.
Okay. I'm just, kind of picking on that comment, picking up on it. I just wanted to know. I thought that had been discussed and that there was, a reason for us to just have this one-on-one, just so that we could deal with, each board has its own issues. So,
Right.
So I just, wanted to make sure that was known, that I think that your point is in the minds of the other commissioners too. I think that was part of the original plan, so.
Commissioner, if you'll bring that up at our
I will.
meeting.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Sandra Krimpaski. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Sandra Krimpaski, 7th C Street. Thank you for having this tonight. As Ms. Palmquist mentioned, it might have been nice for us to be included too. We take what we do very seriously. One of the things, or some of the things that we've been trying to accomplish is to educate the public. So we've been having documentary movies about sea level rise. I'm so sorry, guys. At the library with speakers, knowledgeable speakers. We also, with Mr. Thompson and Dr. Bond, created a climate change survey, which is on our website, for the community to be made aware of what's going on. And also, it has some clues and ideas for what you can do to help, like Ms. Odom said, as far as citizens and homeowners. So I hope that you'll include us next time, and thank you.
That's a good point. The planning board members may not be aware of all of those new resources that were brought forward to us by CPAC, so maybe we could direct staff to.
And CPAC was, we tried to make sure that they were invited and that they would be able to come and comment, but perhaps it's best to hold a meeting with each board separately, but invite.
Right.
others.
But what I was saying is that on our list of requests for staff to give resources to the planning board members, we should amend that list to include, reference to those new resources that CPAC brought forward for us. That would be a good tool.
And I will say that Sandra's at almost every one of our planning meetings, so I appreciate it.
And commission meetings as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Craig Thompson? Craig Thompson?
I made copies of 2 sheets of, responses to the agenda tonight. And,
Name and address, please.
Craig Thompson, number 6 D Street, Downingtown Beach. I did listen to the comments back and forth, and it does seem like there's communication tonight. I wanted to let Mr. Law know that I appreciate him looking at funding and using Bonnie as a, deputy director of planning and zoning, because she does have a history and knowledge that is hard to replace. So I'm here, hoping to improve the situation, make things better. I think the division of building and planning is a heck of a good start, and probably overdue. I've been talking to Max about it for 3 years. And I think that does speak to the resignation letter and one of the recommendations of the previous chair. It was a tough month with the resignations and the 12th Street and Dune demolitions. But basically, for tonight's meeting, I was going to read just one sentence to you all, and I'm going to leave a copy for the record. The PCB should act as a quasi-judicial decision-making body, utilizing the zoning code and the comprehensive plan as legal justification for your decisions. I'd served on PCB for the county, and you would have to typically say that something is in compliance or not in compliance and state the section of the code or comp plan, and then you pass it on to the next body. So the consistency in the comp plan and the LDRs, citing the compliance is the most important thing you can do if you're going to communicate your decision and give it a basis. In terms of the professional planner, I gave the mayor a copy of, typical education requirements and training, and I think getting an intern in, work with Bonnie would be a great idea. Duties of a professional planner would include the following: interpreting the comp plan and land development code policy and recommendations and definitions, preparing PCB agenda and making recommendations regarding approvals on all matters affecting land development in the city, reviewing and recommending any changes in the comp plan and land development regulations. I'll go ahead and stop there. But I appreciate everything that you guys talked about today.
Possible to ask a question?
This is informal.
I was wondering that no one on the P and Z board has seen a copy of your letter or the meeting that you took part in and discussed. I was wondering if that would be possible to share at some point with the Planning and Zoning Board about the sand removal and anything that you discussed about the
Yeah, I didn't appear before your board. I did appear before the city commission, and I gave, for the record, research I had done on the sand removal, and I think it was a serious issue and could probably deserve a little more research and accountability, but it is what it is. I know there's another ordinance being drafted, and hopefully it will never happen again. Yeah. Well, the record should be in the file, and everybody should be able to see how it was approved, when it was approved, and all that. Again, my concern there was that it didn't go to your board, or wasn't reviewed by chairman of the planning and zoning at least, or any other commissioners that I know of at the time it was approved. Those are, again, I was complimenting Mr. Law for saying, he's comfortable giving over those planning decisions to another part of the office, because I think the training and interpreting the intent of the comp plan and things would be perhaps better served. Not that he's not doing his best job, but it's just he's wearing 2 hats, and I don't know what the situation was.
Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, 5 hats.
CPAC has, and one thing the commission has, if there are articles or education materials that Mr. Thompson comes upon on sustainability or what CPAC is doing, he can send it to the city and ask that it be distributed to the commission. At the same time, you can ask that it be distributed to P&Z or Mr. Kincaid. If there's anything you hear, or all of you are more than welcome, if you hear about something public, it's open, you can ask for the information and have the city clerk send you the information, or on behalf of your board, if you want something, just ask for it. And we've had some discussions about if any board member needs information from a staff member, you should be able to ask for it and get it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can get into long policy discussions with staff, because they are busy. And you do have, elected officials to come to, or the city manager to come to if there's, something you want to discuss opinion-wise. But we do want to open up and make sure that you get all the information you need. If there's a specific ordinance or something, or you want to ask a question, you should be able to go to any staff member and ask your question and get an answer. And then if you don't like it, then of course you start your process about what's the interpretation, or we go through a formal process. But we don't want anybody to beat up on staff. Okay? All right.
Well, I think your point, just on that last note there, right, we try to avoid personal attacks, but I would like to know whether there are any, universally shared concerns about, whether, you're feeling a level of confidence from all of the administration, okay? I want to know that. We can only oversee the city manager, but, I want to know what is going on. And I'm sure every commissioner wants to, and I want to make sure that any concerns are addressed. So, again, I reiterate that, that invitation. And, now I've seen a lot of staff changes over the years in City Hall, and it used to be quite regular that I would hear that certain boards were not getting information when requested. And my understanding is that that is no longer really what's going on here, based upon some of those staff changes. And then, you see something like these resignations that took place, and I would like to get more information. I don't know that tonight is necessarily the right context for that, but I would like to know if there are any specific particular concerns that, the board is feeling, either individually or as a whole. But I think that if there is, an overall board concern, certainly that probably all of us want to hear that, so that we know if our city manager is doing his job. Whether it be this city manager or another one, doesn't matter who's in any of the positions, doesn't matter if you like anybody, we all need to do our due diligence, and we want to make sure that everybody's getting the feedback they need to do the best job that they can, so.
I can only speak for myself, but I can tell you that the resignations were not shared with the board as a board. It may have been shared with individual members of the board, but it was a shock to me. I didn't know anything about the resignations or the reason behind them, nor have I seen the letters that have supposedly been out there. So I don't really know.
I haven't seen the letters.
I haven't seen the letters. I asked Max for a copy, or if he had them, but he said he didn't have.
But as far as information, I'm relatively new on this board, a year or so into it. I'm still learning every day. I'm certainly not an expert. I depend very, very heavily on the information that we get from staff, the recommendations. I know we don't always go with the staff recommendation, but we depend on them, and I don't have a problem depending on them to get accurate information. I haven't found a place where I feel like I'm getting inaccurate or inconsistent information. I think that segment of our operation, I don't have any issues with. I think better communication with the commission is going to help us a lot. But as far as the resignations, and that was just not, it was not a board matter. It wasn't something that was shared. And I don't know that the opinions, whatever the opinions were that led to the resignations, I can't possibly know if those were even shared, because we don't know what the reasons were.
Right. That's interesting. I suppose it's up to each of you individually to decide if you think it's relevant to know why somebody, resigned, given that at least a portion of the reason had to do with some frustration, whether that frustration is coming from the commission or from the city manager's office or wherever. You know, I think it's probably all of our responsibility to kind of dig into that. And my presumption is that there were other issues too, maybe personally, that were going on that, you know, led to those resignations, and maybe some of the, you know, frustrations were aired because it was a good time to do so when you're leaving. And maybe done with the hope that there could be some, their complaints could be heard in a more, you know, loud way. So I'd like to always, you know, try to find the best out of a situation and try to see what can we take away and try to do better. And so I'd just like to know better if it's isolated experiences, whether that's coming from, you know, having served for so long and there've been some accumulation of experiences with prior staff circumstances and prior decisions and issues in front of the board and prior board members and so forth, or if there's anything still that's left for us to do to make it better. So I think it's probably up to each of you to decide if you want to see it. But if you want to see it, you know, absolutely staff should give you anything that you want to see. So.
Mr. Slavin, please. End. You're done. You're done for the night, please. Okay. All right. Okay. Mr. Kincaid, any other closing remarks before I open it up to your board for any closing remarks? Anything you all would like to add? We'd love to hear.
I'd just like to, at least for myself, tell you I'm happy and honored to be a part of this board, and I think we do a very good job normally to work toward a better environment for the citizens, for our visitors, to help you, and to work toward the city's vision. And the more education that we can get, and the more opportunity that we get, I think the better we'll be able to work in our mission. So I look forward to working hard.
I'd like to just hitchhike on that. You know, I think that these meetings are very important. I think what I'm getting out of this tonight is the transparency. We definitely need the transparency that I don't feel we have had all the time in the past. But I'm not one to dwell in the past. It's done. Let's move on and make it better, you know. And I think that, you know, we can do that. We have a great, from our side, we have a great board. I think we have a great commission. I think everybody has a common goal. But I do think that the communication and the transparency is paramount to be successful for our citizens.
One of the things is that the commission had decided to have this joint meeting before the resignations. And, I mean, there was a public article, and it was a shame that the resignations occurred before we could have this. But it was something we decided on our one of our agenda meetings, I think maybe in December or January before the so it was unfortunate and a shame.
I think they would have happened anyhow, but,
Oh,
you know,
all right.
and I'm not going to speak to
Okay.
it tonight, you know, but I think it would have happened anyhow.
Okay.
That's
All
sad,
right.
because I respect both of those ladies.
Anybody else from P and Z? Okay.
I'm just a sponge still.
And you
sponge,
we all
yeah.
understand that.
Just-
My objective is to become better versed in the actual codes themselves,
Yeah.
so that I can interpret it properly. That's where things, because I watched some of these meetings in the past. That sort of bothered me.
That's important.
Like I say, P and Z is the heart of the community, so it's, that's where it all happens. That's a
And
good
like you
place.
said, we do get a lot of, I do get a lot of phone calls and people stopping me, different places and asking me a lot of questions. Why this and why that, and why, and what's going on with 13th Street. And so we'll talk about that, Mr. Law. And, but if you have anything that you think that we need, if you would please forward that to our emails now that
Okay.
and stuff about anything with CPAC or anything you think that would be in our best, you know, to have that knowledge, then I think we would all better from that.
Okay, we'll all do that, all the commissioners. If you come across something, we usually ask the city manager and the administrative staff to pass things along, so we will try and do that. Any commissioners want to make some closing remarks?
I think I said a lot. I'm sorry, I'm very
I think it was a
verbose,
productive
but-
meeting. It was good, productive meeting. Looking forward to having more of these, I guess, more frequently than once a year, or once every 2 years, whatever. I don't remember when the last one was, but this is great, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank all of y'all for doing what you do as well, because it's important to learn and understand your perspectives. And again, we work together as a team. We're all here for the same reason. We're all residents of St. Augustine Beach. So the love for what we're doing is important to every one of us. Take out the commission, as Vice Chairman you had mentioned, just as a resident, it's important. And I look forward to it. My phone number's accessible. Call me. I'm happy to discuss, sit down, have coffee, whatever, because the transparency and the openness is needed. And I feel we have a great commission as well. And the 5 of us, our hearts are here, and I can see all 7 of y'all's are here as well. So thank you.
I think it's important not to let the dialogue stop here tonight, that we can continue communication between ourselves. Like Commissioner Rumwell said, we're all accessible. And I think this is a great beginning for other things to happen. I would like to see a meeting with all of the boards together. I think that was a great idea, because we all have a part to play in what we do to serve the community. And teamwork makes the dream work, so keep at it. Thank you for everything you do.
Any further comments from staff?
I need your permission to do this. Everybody knows I like to send people to training. If I can find training for maybe at least 2 of the members of the planning and zoning, would the commission consider authorizing, they may have to spend a night or, a couple nights somewhere? Is that something the commission would entertain if I could
I
reduce the
don't
budget?
think we can make decisions tonight on anything.
No, I mean, just
but,
even for me to look into it.
Let's talk offline on that
Okay.
with and see what we do.
And I do, CPAC representatives, how many members are on your board right now for the vision plan?
I think just 5 right now. We've lost our regulars, and so our alternates had to come up.
So you have 5 total. Do you have anybody coming up the pipeline?
Well, we had someone and they withdrew the other day, so we're working on it.
So you need 5 copies of the vision plan, the comp plan, we just have to wait till that's done, and the land development code from Unicode, 5 and 5. And you want an individual binders or together?
If you could do, well, no, you can put it in one binder.
All right, we'll see. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
With Max, no comment.
There's just so
Okay,
many
all
boards, I
right.
gotta count everybody that.
Okay. Well, we're making our goal of getting out of here by 8, and so, and so I appreciate everyone's attendance, and we'll stay in touch more often. I think I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
All right.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion passes. We are adjourned for the evening, and thank you again.
Nice job.